Earlier in the show, Amity and I talked about some figures from Black history who inspired each of us.
We also posed this question to our New Day contributor, Terry Hollimon, and here's our conversation.
My family, my parents, are really my Black history heroes of this month, and for really every month. I look at my dad in particular, growing up in rural Arkansas on a sharecropping farm his entire life until he left high school to college. He was a sharecropper. My family basically owned nothing, not a house, not a car. They worked in a cotton field. My father worked in a cotton field until he graduated from high school, and they worked on that field in exchange for living in the house that they lived in, which was basically a wooden shack, a wooden shotgun house with aluminum siding. And I grew up sometime in my youth there, so I know what it was like out there. And to go from that to going to be the first African-American football player at Arkansas State University on scholarship, he used his athleticism to get his way out of a situation where it was poverty and destitute. And sharecropping, basically a situation where it was just basically one step above slavery, if we were really being honest about it. And he took his opportunity to go to college, ended up going to Canada to play professional football for 10 years, and is now a successful businessman. And I just think it's an amazing story, that I get to witness up close and personal.
So Terry, what were the opportunities like in your town, for Black people?
Yeah. So in the rural area of Arkansas where my family came from, there weren't very many for African Americans. Farming was basically the biggest thing, or working in the fields were the biggest thing. There wasn't really an opportunity if you wanted to be a teacher to go teach at the main high school because it was still kind of segregated. You could be a teacher at the Black segregated school, but you couldn't go be a teacher. You couldn't be the principal. You couldn't go be a physician or you could be the Black physician. You could be the physician for the people who were working in those rural jobs. But opportunities were very limited. And so these were the opportunities that they had, and they had to make the most of them. And sharecropping was it. And it wasn't really the best opportunity for you to get ahead in life.
Yeah. And have you always been this open, Terry, about your family and the history?
I actually have been. You think about some of the things that my family has gone through in the past. Some of it may seem traumatic, and some people may be ashamed and want to hide it. But honestly, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it because my family was able to find a way out of no way, in a situation where most people didn't make it out of where they were. And, and that includes my mom. My mom was in a situation too where, I think about my mother, who is really one of the most glamorous people you would ever want to meet. And think about her as a young person working in a cotton field. And I remember stories from my grandmother talking about my dad. And back in the day, I used to think it was funny when they'd say, oh, your dad would just pick just enough cotton to fill a bag to lay down on. And they were doing that to make fun of him. And I was like, I'd laugh back in the day, but now I think about it. Think about a young man, a young child in a field picking cotton, and it's 100 degrees outside, just enough that he could lay down in the middle of a field on. So I'm proud that I came from that. And I'm in a situation now where I can do things that they could never have dreamed of back in the day.
Mm.
Do you ever find, Terry, that there's kind of a lack of understanding of how recent all of this was?
Yeah, a lot of people like to think of these things as taking place in the ancient history, the ancient past. But if we really break it down, the Civil Rights Movement Act was signed in 1964. That's just a little bit over 50 years ago, almost 60 years ago. That's all of our parents' lifetime.
Yeah.
And so these are people that are still around us that were alive when segregation was legal, when it was not allowed for Black people and white people to intermingle. So it wasn't that long ago. And like I said, personally, my parents come from sharecroppers. And I got to experience what they lived just by hearing their stories. Their influence on me impacted the way I am today.
Yeah, I remember my mom telling me about when her community, they were finally forced to hire Black people. And then when she got there, they were like, we've hired enough Black people and, no more. And then someone in the community advocated, she got her job. My dad was the first Black police officer in town. So yeah, this is recent. It is history, and the present is a reflection of kind of where we come from.
Well, think about this, Angela. I mean, you said, your dad was hired and they were like, no more. And that's what we like to think about. They say, oh, we had the civil rights movement in the 60s and then everything was equal and fine. No, it was not. Mm-hmm. Think about if the entire country was a certain way for hundreds of years. and then they signed this bill into law. People didn't change. People didn't change immediately, or not even to this day. There's some people still hanging on to some of their old beliefs and thought processes. So I think if, for us to celebrate and acknowledge the Black History Month and the accomplishments that Black people have made in this country, it helps to change things for the future generation.
So well said. I love that conversation.
I do. I really enjoyed it, and I really thought about, the thing that struck me was not that far in the past and the change that still needs to happen. And it's hard and it's difficult to talk about. And it makes people very uncomfortable sometimes. But things have not changed quickly enough. And I feel like it's still a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we had the conversation. We're not, we've never arrived when it comes to this issue. And I think that's the number one thing. As Terry said, it wasn't that long ago, but look how far we've come.
Yeah.
So
that's why we're having this show.
yeah.
I love this.